When we aren't able to accomplish the things we need to, we often blame time. And no matter how much time we give ourselves, it still never feels like enough. But what if we've been looking at it completely wrong? What if time is actually our ally and not our enemy? The reality is we'll never have time to do everything. But that's not a handicap, it's a buff. Because once we understand that time is limited, all the projects, relationships, and tasks we feel we need to cling onto or to finish at a certain time, we can just let go of. And along with letting go is all the emotional baggage that comes with it. So back in med school, years 1 and 2 are didactic, meaning we do the typical, study, go to lectures, and take exams vibe. Then during 3rd and 4th year, we add on hospital rotations, seeing patients and stuff, but we still have to study and take exams. I remember struggling first year and thinking, geez, this is gonna be rough doing it while working. Like, how are we supposed to have time to do anything? But I was able to make it work and actually keep up. And that's when it clicked for me. Time isn't the enemy. It's our friend. Because when we know time is limited, it forces us to reflect and focus only on the things that matter. Muhammad Ali once said, "Don't count the days, make the days count." The reason why we don't accomplish the things we need to is not a lack of time, but because we squander it and don't have clear priorities. Lack of clarity means confusion, and nothing is more stressful than watching the clock tick because we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. So let's break down a 3-step process to clarify and prioritize your day using time as a tool and not as a handicap. First is to clarify what needs to be done by urgency and importance. Our brain will oftentimes mix these two up. For example, replying to every text message or email might feel important. We can easily spend all day doing those tasks. But ultimately, if our goal is to get into medical school, then what's important is to study. The worst way we can use our time is to do something really well and thoroughly that didn't need to be done in the first place. But of course, something can be both important and urgent, so figuring this out can be kind of tricky. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about a method for prioritization called the Eisenhower box. Make a 4-quadrant box. Things that are important and urgent, important but not urgent, not important but urgent, and then not important or urgent. Put all of your tasks into one of these 4 boxes, and then focus on the important tasks first before even moving on to the urgent ones. If you don't have time to address all of them, remember that's okay. We can't do everything, so just let them hang out in their box. Over time, as you continue using this system, you'll realize that most things that we think we need to do or we hold on to eventually end up in box number 4. So now that our boxes are filled out and we've identified the most important and urgent things to do, step 2 is to clarify how we'll do each task by its sequence of actions. Right? Just because I know it's important for me to get an internship or get a job doesn't mean I'm actually gonna do it if I don't know how. There have been so many times where I've carved out a huge chunk of time to do something important, but then I realized I had no clue how to do it, and so I ended up procrastinating. So it's super important to clarify each thing into a sequence of actions. If I want to land an internship, what are the actions involved? I need a resume, a portfolio, I need a letter of recommendation, I need leads of where to apply, and I need to practice and hone my interview skills. And each of those steps can be clarified further. Brainstorm all of it out so there's no confusion about what steps need to be done. Because that way, when we have some time to work on it, we'll know if it's realistic or not to make progress on that task, or if our time is better spent somewhere else. Another exercise that's been helpful to clarify a sequence of actions is to work backwards and reverse engineer the steps. So for example, what happens before I land an internship? Well, I probably had an interview. What do I need to do to get there? I need an offer. How do I get an offer? I need to submit a strong application to a lot of different people, right? So you can work forwards or backwards, work in whichever direction makes sense for the task at hand. And step 3 is to clarify when we'll do things by energy. In general, I divide up my day into 3 parts: morning, afternoon, and evening. Because during each of those periods of time, we all have a unique energy curve. Our energy state will make it easier or harder to complete different types of work. And we can use neuroscience to explain why. So typically in the mornings, between 6 and 8 hours of being awake, our body releases high amounts of cortisol and adrenaline. It's what makes us feel alert, awake, and focused. So when clarifying when to do important tasks, it's a good idea to pick work that's cognitively demanding, like deep studying or writing or problem solving, and do those in the morning. As we move into the afternoon time, our energy curve tends to dip a little bit. Cortisol and adrenaline start to come down and our serotonin levels start to rise, which makes us feel more relaxed. This is also usually when our caffeine starts to wear off and the food coma starts to settle in, so our alertness might drop. So when clarifying work, pick work that's mellower or doesn't require as much deep thinking. This could be administrative stuff like answering emails or phone calls, practicing flashcards, club or work meetings, or running errands. Then as we enter evening time, usually around 5 p.m. or so, our energy curve again shifts. And this is due to the circadian alerting system. So during the evening, we tend to get a slight boost in energy about 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. And it's similar to the alertness we feel in the morning, but our body might feel more tired. If you've ever felt physically tired, but your mind is alert, you'll know what I mean. So during this time of day, I would clarify things that don't require a long stretch of deep work. This could be things like doing practice problems or pre-studying for tomorrow's lecture or, clarifying your inbox. And also very importantly, during this time, stop drinking caffeine because we want to get to sleep. So to give a complete example of how I used this entire 3-step process was how I prepared for my step 1 exam. Before going into my 5 weeks of dedicated study time, I sat down and clarified all of my upcoming responsibilities with an Eisenhower box. And I realized that the only things that were important for me were studying, getting exercise, and checking in with my girlfriend at the time so that she knew I was live. Everything else in boxes 3 and 4, I just deleted from my brain. Next, the sequence. Studying for my exam is pretty vague, so that needed some additional sequencing. What was I going to do each day? And for this exam, I broke it down into 3 steps. Learn new information from videos, textbooks, and modules. Connect the dots to see how that fits with what I already know. And then test myself with self-assessments to make sure I understood it all. And I'd repeat that sequence of actions for every subject until I learned everything. That's the super condensed version and actually goes much deeper. So if you're interested, definitely check out our comprehensive how to study guide video right up here. And then finally, I had to map out my energy curve. Learning new information, which is very cognitively demanding, I reserved the morning time. During the afternoon, once my caffeine wore off and I hit my midday slump, I focused on flashcards, exercising, and the occasional FaceTime check-in. And then in the evening, with a second surge of energy, I do practice problems or draw mind maps until bedtime. I knew I wasn't gonna have much time to do anything else besides study, but instead of letting that cause me overwhelm, I saw it as an opportunity to focus only on what mattered. And so I clarified exactly what my priorities were for the next 5 weeks, what were important and urgent to move me towards my goal. So anyways, hopefully I've convinced you now that clarity is the most important ingredient for personal productivity, and that maybe time isn't such a bad guy after all. And really, it can be a tool we can use to live each day more intentionally. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if you liked or hated any part of my process. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.